Hello, everyone. Episode 8, Packers Weekly Discussion. In this one, I'm joined by Nick Nassos. As per usual, we'll be discussing all things Packers with the draft. It is this Thursday. We are excited. Only 2 more days until the Packers get on the board, start making their selection. I know everyone's buzzing with the Niners, but Packers have a big draft ahead of them as well. So I did just want to go over some of the topics. So we're going to talk about the Packers draft history over the last couple of years, sort of what they've done in the past with first and second round picks. Then we're going to go over Goot's history and the trades that he's made and, talk about those. And then we're going to do another mock draft, the final one for the Packers. I don't think we're going to do any trades or anything crazy like that. Just
we'll see.
Just pick who and all that. So let's start with the draft history of the Green Bay Packers. So we're going to do the first round starting off. So we're going back to 2010, and these are the positions that have been taken and how many. So quarterback, we've taken 1 quarterback. We've taken 2 edge. We've taken 3 safeties. We've taken 1 cornerback, 2 interior defensive line, and 2 offensive tackles. So then the picks that we've had, we took Jordan Love in 2020, 2019, Rashaan Gary and Darnell Savage, 2018, our man all-pro Jair Alexander. 2017, we didn't have a first-round pick because we traded back into the second round with the Browns. 2016, we took Kenny Clark, also insanely good. 2015, Damaris Randall, safety corner hybrid, played mainly corner for us, did not pan out. Clinton Dix, this was a fan favorite at the time. I'd say that was a hit. And the next, 2013, Dayton Jones, he did not have the career we were hoping for, but that was a long time ago. And then 2012, Nick Perry, same thing with him. He played with a club all the time, it felt like. Didn't really play until his 5th year. Next, Derek Sherrod, offensive tackle, and then Brian Bulaga, Iowa, 2010, offensive tackle. He was with us for a long time, but that was an awesome hit. So, Nick, what are your thoughts on our first round draft history for the last 10 years?
So I'll start with last year. Is the only quarterback we've taken in the first round since Aaron Rodgers. It's also the only skill player we've taken in the first round since Aaron Rodgers. And it's the only offensive player we've taken in the first round since 2011. So we've talked a lot about Jordan Love in the past, but they just said a few weeks ago we were like, all right, Aaron Rodgers, they're not extending him. What's happening? We were kind of upset. We were kind of like, all right, I guess they're moving on to Jordan Love. But now they recently said that they are still working with Aaron Rodgers and that he should be the quarterback. The quote was for the foreseeable future.
Whatever that means.
That brought us some joy because it sounds like he'll at least be around a couple more years. And then if you go before Jordan Love, we had Rashaan Gary, who we got in 2019. And Rashaan Gary, he was not good his rookie year. It was very disappointing. But last year, he was really good. Yes. Him and Zardarius Smith were our 2 guys off the edge who were they got to the quarterback, and they were really fun to watch. And they really propelled that Packers defense back to what it used to be earlier in the decade. After that, we have Jair Alexander, one of our favorite players, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. A lot of fun to watch, so love him. And then 2016 is the last one, I believe, that is the first pick that's still with the Packers. That's Kenny Clark, who basically is our D tackle. He's the guy who can stop the run. We just gave him a bunch of money. He didn't have the best start to the season, but he ended pretty well, and it would be good to get him some help to stop that run. So those are my thoughts on the first round. We've had other good picks, but those are the guys who are still with the team.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, too, so sort of like you mentioned, besides from 2019 to 2012, all of our first-round picks have been defense, which is crazy because obviously, having Rodgers, you'd think, okay, maybe they're going to, build the trenches. And we have done that a little. We got Brian Bulaga. We got Sherrod, who didn't pan out, but still. But they've mainly just gone defense. And a lot of it.
The thing to add is we're an offensive team. Like, we're putting up points. We don't even have one of the top defenses. Like, we're an offensive team, even though we're always taking defensive guys.
Exactly. So that's kind of funny in the fact that, they've tried to build the defense up with, high first round picks, and I'd say a decent amount of them, like we definitely have not been picking in the early 10, like early spots, which I think makes it
only a couple years.
Yeah, like only Rashaan Gary and with Jair were those earlier picks. But if you think about it, it is a lot harder to hit on a pick when you're drafting in the late 20s, early 30s, as opposed to being a team that's, top 10 or even top 15. There's an abundance of just better players. There's certainly a drop off. So I'm not really mad at like looking back at some of these picks. Like I see, okay, Jair is a superstar. Gary and Savage are starters, and I'd say they're definitely not like Pro Bowlers, but they're above average. And
I think Savage could be a top 10 safety. Like this year, not last year yet, but I really do think that he has that like a high ceiling.
He has potential, yeah. I wish he'd be a little better in the run, but
yeah.
Like his speed is definitely very evident.
Packers defense as a whole needs to be better in stopping the run.
Exactly. But like Kenny Clark, Jair, Gary, Savage, like I'd say those are all solid picks. Jury's still out on Love. Damaris Randall was our cornerback 1 for a few years, although I wouldn't say he was the best first rounder. Clinton Dix had a few good seasons too, made Pro Bowl and kind of fell off. But still, like, we haven't really had any completely major whiffs, I guess is my point.
I would agree.
One about Love, he hasn't played yet, though. So
he's not whiff yet.
You can say he's a bad pick because he hasn't started, but we still don't know. He could end up being a Pro Bowl quarterback. And at that point, I don't think it'd be a whiff at all. So jury's still out, but as of now, it's maybe not looking the best overall. But what are your thoughts on what are the details on our second rounders for the last 10 years?
All right. So we just talked about the first round. Now let's move into the second round. And this is where we've got a little more offense from 2010 to 2020 over in the second round. We've taken 2 running backs. We've taken 2 offensive linemen. We've taken 2 wide receivers. So that's 6 offensive players right there, which is double the amount we've taken in the first round in that amount of time. And then we also have got 4 cornerbacks, a safety, a defensive tackle, and a defensive end. And those are all the positions we've gotten in the second round since 2010. And I'll just highlight some of them. I won't go through all of them because not all our second round picks have been as good as our first round picks. But last year we took A.J. Dillon. And at the time, he was our 3rd string running back. A.J. Dillon was the 3rd guy behind Jamal Williams and our lead guy, who's Aaron Jones. But now Jamal Williams is gone. Aaron Jones, we re-signed. We were kind of shocked at that at the beginning, but we're glad to have him back. He's a great running back. But A.J. Dillon will be the 2nd guy this year, and it'll be fun to watch him play. Next, in 2019, we took Elkatron, who is Elton Jenkins. He was drafted as a center, but he plays a lot of guard for us, and he is amazing. He's allowed 1 sack in his career, which is just phenomenal. Packers' offensive line is so good. Next was 2017. I'm going to talk about Kevin King. Packers fans are very familiar with Kevin King. He was not too good in the Buccaneers playoff game, but he's back. We just re-signed him. He'll be our guy. I'm going to skip over to 2014 now, where we got Davante Adams, our number 1 wide receiver as of now. Obviously, he's the weapon for Aaron Rodgers to go to. So much fun to watch. He needs some help. We'll see. Maybe this year, maybe this year's the year we get a little help. 2013. I'm sorry. We got Eddie Lacy, who actually was really, really good when we got him, and then 1 or 2 more years after. But then he just kind of got out of shape. He stopped caring, I guess you could say, and we just let him go. He went to the Seahawks, and he was never good again, like really good. Next was 2012. We got Casey Hayward, who's a cornerback that had a great rookie year. Then I think he had some injury problems, fell off a little bit. But once he went to the Chargers, he became a really, really good cornerback, which, like, good for him. But obviously, we wish he would have been Packers still when he was that good. And finally, I'll talk about the 2011, which is where we had Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb's a wide receiver who's no longer with the Packers, but he was just a really fun guy, and he was fun to watch on the Packers. Everyone loved him. No one hated Randall Cobb in the Packers organization or as like a Packers fan. And Blake, what do you want to add about those second round guys that I might have missed?
Yeah. So again, this is where we've kind of gone skill positions, like with running back Lacy and Dillon, yes. And then receiver. So who didn't make the cutoff is going to be Greg Jennings, Jordy Nelson. Those are 2 other guys that they were second rounders who ended up being really good. They didn't make this list, but I just wanted to point out
they were just earlier. They were earlier.
Packers have drafted receivers in the second, and they've turned out to be really, really good. Devontae Adams, obviously, don't need to say much. All pro. Randall Cobb was really, really good for, I feel like, half a decade.
Yeah. Just that slot guy.
Jordy, all pro. Greg Jennings, insanely good. So the Packers have drafted receivers really well in the second round. So again, like I'd be fine going second. We've clearly shown we can develop the talent, and there's going to be some guys available in the second round. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went that route. And you look overall, and there's a lot of cornerbacks taken, but besides cornerbacks, kind of scattered defensively. So cornerback and receiver, which are two of the more premier positions in the NFL, the Packers seem to value a lot in this second round. And it could be because of positional value or just the guys that have been there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we went that route in the second round this year, especially considering receiver and corner are two needs that me and you have outlined.
That's what we said we need to win the Super Bowl. That's all we need. We've said all we need is another weapon for Rodgers and another guy who can play the cornerback on defense. Yeah,
that would definitely help. So don't be surprised if the Packers take a receiver or a corner in round 2. And then I'd say round 1, history says defense. Is this the year they maybe go trenches again or maybe go get a receiver? I would bet on either O-lineman or somewhere defensively. That's my thoughts, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see us getting a receiver in the first round or a cornerback, but I would say that it's more likely to go offensive line, which we do kind of need an offensive lineman. But I would almost bank on us getting a cornerback or receiver in the second round if we don't in the first round.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think we can move on now and talk about Goots, our GM. His last name is hard to pronounce. He will be known as Brian Goot or just Goot for short. We're just going to talk about his first round pick. So he took over in 2018. And he's
been in the Packers organization since for a very long time. Yes. He became the official GM of the Packers in 2018, which is when we're going to start talking about when he was actually in charge.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to mention Ted Thompson was the guy before. The last few drafts seemed to be more of Goot's liking, where the guys were more athletic. I mean, think of Josh Jones. He seemed more of a Goot pick than a Thompson type of guy. Just he was super athletic and all that. So interesting there. But in 2018, we traded down from pick 14 with the Saints. We got pick 26, 147, which is a 4th rounder, and then a future 1st round pick. So, Nick, that was the first trade we made. And then we traded back up with the Seahawks. We traded 27th, 76, which is a 3rd, and then 186, which is a 5th, for the 18th pick and the 248, which is a 7th. So, Nick, thoughts on those trades?
So, it was definitely very interesting in 2018 watching the draft when we first made the initial trade. But then it got even more interesting when we traded again. And it ended up, we got another 1st round pick for the future, which definitely helped us out because in 2019, we got Rashaan Gary and Darnell Savage in the 1st round. Mm-hmm. So overall, I do like the trade. And I think that we kind of knew when we did the first trade that the second trade was going to happen.
Does that make sense? Well, I guess my thought was okay, it looks like we're picking, late again as usual, because usually the Packers this past decade only had 2 seasons where they were picking top 15, right?
Yeah, and that was because Aaron Rodgers got injured. And when Aaron Rodgers got injured, it just shows why he's the most valuable person in the NFL, because without him, the Packers could not win a football game.
Exactly. And so when we did that, I was like, all right, I'm fine with this because we just picked up an extra 1st rounder, which is kind of crazy because they went 15 spots up, which is a lot. And we got an extra 1st, and they took Marcus Davenport. We ended up trading that 1st and a couple 4ths to move up to get Savage. But I'm happy with what we did. And then the additional trade up, we didn't give up too much. A third is for what we got, like the overall net, the fact that we gained an extra first and only had to give up mid-round picks to get a guy who, wouldn't have been there at 27. We were probably thinking of getting at 14, but we got him later and got another first-round pick. I loved it. I thought that was genius. I didn't really see it coming, and that was his first draft, and it ended up being Jair. So
cool. As his own island.
Awesome pick. Yes, exactly. And then I wanted to go on to the next trade, 2019. We traded from 30th, and we traded 2 fourths up to the 21st pick. So we moved up 9 spots. And we took Darnell Savage. Thoughts on this one, Nick?
So, as I said earlier, I really like Darnell Savage, and I think he has the potential to be a top 10 safety in the league. So, getting rid of 2 fourths it's pretty valuable. If you look at that, but
good depth.
We moved up 9 spots, which is very good. And Darnell Savage would not have been there 9 spots later. Obviously, I don't know. Who knows who we would have got?
Why they traded up, yeah.
But I'm okay with giving up the 2 fourths. It is pricier than a lot of people think, but I like Darnell Savage. He's still a Packer. He works out. He starts for us, and he's obviously not a bust. And I see him playing this year, next year, and hopefully in the future as a Green Bay Packer and doing his role. He's a solid guy in that defense.
Yeah, I'm with you. It was kind of weird because Darnell Savage, he didn't really have too much hype until right before the draft. And that's why they traded up. And I didn't really think it was on our radar. I didn't really see his name buzzing around us too much. He was more seen as a second round guy, but kind of snuck in due to his athleticism, and we traded up. He's been solid so far. He hasn't been a world beater. I don't know if he'll be a all-pro ever. I highly doubt it. Maybe he won't even be a Pro Bowler, but he's still a pretty good safety, and he's not a bust. He's overall pretty solid. So I like it. If you like a guy and you think he's going to be really good, you go get him.
You spend what you got to spend.
That's what they did with Jair. And if Good thinks that's the move, I trust him because, last time he traded up, he got an all-pro. So I like it. And then our final trade up in 2020, we traded the 30th pick and a 4th rounder for the 26th to take Jordan Love. Nick, what are your thoughts on this one?
All right. So I'm going to tell a story. So last year on draft night, me and Blake were talking. And when the Packers traded up, I said, oh my gosh, we're going to take a quarterback. We're going to take Jordan Love. And we did. And at the time, I was really happy. I was calling him the apprentice. But then Aaron Rodgers won an MVP. He was the best player in all of football. And I don't want to move on from Aaron Rodgers so that this pick doesn't look like a waste. And I don't think we will. I think we're going to stick with Rodgers, especially after these most recent comments. But at the time of the pick, I was very happy. I was glad that we were getting the future because I believe that quarterbacks should sit a few years before coming in. It does not usually work out when they just come in week 1 after being drafted. And because usually they're on a bad team, first off, because they were drafted so early. But second off, they're just not ready. They need to learn how the NFL works first. And Aaron Rodgers is a good mentor. So I was very happy that Jordan Love was going to come in. But now I think Aaron Rodgers could be with us for a lot more seasons. And this might end up being a wasted pick. And that's okay with me as long as Aaron Rodgers is well. I just don't want to move on too quick from Aaron Rodgers. But at the time, I thought this was a good deal.
Interesting. Yeah. So when we first traded up, I'm like, it's happening. We're getting Patrick Queen. We're getting that linebacker that we wanted so bad. And then we took Jordan Love, and I'm like, oh, man, what are we doing? Is Rodgers done? We still don't have any clue as to what the thoughts on that are. But, yeah, I think the bottom line here is that Good likes to move around a lot in the first round. He's done it in 3 consecutive drafts as a GM. And so,
he's done it every draft he's been a part of as a GM.
Yeah, every draft he's been the GM, he has traded up or down. In some cases, traded down. He moves a lot in the middle rounds too, but I think that's every GM. So didn't really want to cover that too much. So yeah, I guess first round, be on the lookout for the Packers to make a trade, most likely up. they could maybe trade out if there's like 4 guys and they're like, we could trade to the second round and we'll get them and we'll pick an additional mid-round pick. Last time they did that, they traded 29 and they got a pick from the Browns, which was the first pick of the second, and then they also got a 4th. Those picks ended up being Kevin King and Vince Beagle, so it doesn't always work. Sometimes in the 4th round you get Josh Sitton or you get David Bakhtiari, which we've done in the past, so you never know.
Another thing is the Packers got 3 compensatory picks this year, like 3 extra picks, and is it the 4th, 5th, and 6th? So don't be surprised if they trade up like this year either, because they have those extra picks, and obviously those picks are valuable, but if they see a guy, they might move up and they might go get a cornerback or an old lineman, or I don't think they'll trade up for a wide receiver. I think they'd trade down or pick at 29, but they might. If Jalen Waddle's available in the teams, they might go get him.
And who knows, maybe we'll trade Jordan Love and maybe Kellen Mond's there and Goot's just like, we need Kellen Mond. That's who we need. Maybe Najee Harris, and they're thinking, we need that 3rd running back. So you never know what the Packers are going to do. I can't bash them too much. They've drafted well, in my opinion, over the last few years. But that's just the history of Goot. So I guess the bottom line, what you should take away from this is that the Packers, there's a good chance they trade up. If history serves us correct, they will trade up as they've done it the last 3 times with Goot. So there we go. And then there was a couple of questions that I did want to get to. So Eddie's going to ask here, do you guys think this is the draft Packers finally get another weapon for Rodgers? Nick, I'll let you go first. What do you think?
Yes, I do. And I don't think it'll be in the 1st round, though. I think we're going to get a wide receiver in the 2nd round. And we might trade that first pick that we have down. We might trade down to the 2nd round, like early in the 2nd round, and get someone like the guy from North Carolina, Brown. But we might also just pick late in the 2nd round. But I do think the Packers will get a weapon for Rodgers this year, and I think they'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, I'm with you. And this was something, I guess I would define weapon as a receiver in the first 3 rounds. So I think they'll do that. And I did want to point something out, Nick. They don't have any receivers signed in 2022. Not one is signed. Now, Adams will most likely get extended. And
they've been talking about that last couple days, honestly. They've been saying, like, they're working with Adams. Yeah.
So they're not obviously going to roll in without a receiver. Like, that's crazy. I guess the bigger point is that they don't have anyone locked up in 2022. So maybe they're still feeling out the roster. Maybe they haven't made a decision on Lazard or Equanimeous St. Brown or
Devin Funchess.
Devin Funchess. None of these guys are locked to be on the roster past this year. So I really think they are going to draft at least 1 or 2 guys. Maybe it'll be like a few years ago when they took Jamon Moore, Equanimeous St. Brown, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling in the 4th and then 5th round. So we'll see, but I think they will take at least.
I think they're going to get one. I think they'll get a guy either like 2nd or 3rd round, maybe 1st round, and then later in the draft they'll get another guy who just kind of like to test them out, where you get one in like the 5th or 6th round who's just there.
I'm with you. So I really think that they will get a receiver, probably 2. That's my guess. What are your final guesses? How many receivers?
I'd go 2. I'd go right at 2. And I wouldn't take under 2. I'd say 2. I would say more likely 3 than 1, but I'd say 2.
Awesome. This was also brought up. Julio is available. I'm sure he could help you. Yes, I think Julio would help us. I don't know what the Falcons would ask for him though. That's my thing. Like
obviously Julio is one of the best wide receivers, but I don't know if we can afford him. I don't know if we don't need him. We need him, but not for the price he'd be. Julio Jones will not be a Packer.
I would have to look into his contract more and if they do trade him, how much are they going to have to pay and how much are we going to have to pay salary cap wise? Because the NFL is not all guaranteed money. So when they get traded, it doesn't all just shift. The burden doesn't shift to the team he's getting traded to. So I'll look into this one, but Gabriel, next time, or sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but 49ers GT, come back and we will have a better answer for you if you're in the next stream. But good question. That was a good one. You also asked, are you guys thinking, aka the Packers, thinking about trading away Jordan Love? I'm gonna go first. I don't think they are. I personally don't think they're thinking about trading him. I think they're kind of just holding right now. If it's a buy, sell, hold game, they're just in the hold mode. But Nick, what are your thoughts?
I would be shocked if the Packers end up trading Jordan Love. I think he'll be a Packer this whole season. I don't think he'll play unless, no, he's not playing. Rodgers is not getting injured. Jordan Love's not playing this season. And I hope Rodgers will be here in our quarterback for more than just this year. So I could see us next season looking to trade Jordan Love. It'll also be interesting to see if we show him off a little bit this year, like late in the season, if we have a playoff spot, or just like at the end of a game if we're up by 20 or something. But I don't know if that would be the smartest for the Packers, because if he goes out there and he doesn't do well, his value will go down. Right now, I think he's valued pretty high, honestly, as a player. I think he has good value right now.
Yeah, he has decent value. I mean, probably like an early to mid-second rounder.
Mm-hmm.
If he's a first, you could maybe debate that. Tough to say.
Well, it also depends if we're moving up, then that changes, So like give him in our first round pick for how high could we go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tough to say, but I don't think he's gone. A couple more questions. How would you guys rank Jordan Love compared to the top 5 to 7 QBs in this year's class? So at least for me, I haven't seen them all, or I mean, I have, but I don't have like, a definitive ranking. Like I have him at a 90 over 90 ranking. He's at 85. I don't have it like that, but from what I've read and gathered and seen, I think he would be below the top 5 quarterbacks of this class. So basically, like he would be above Kellen Mond, Trask, Davis Mills, all those other dudes. But he would not be. He'd be stuck between those guys, which is like the tier 2, and then the first rounders, which is like Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, Lance, and Mac Jones. So that is what I believe the consensus or perception is. Now, whether you have Jordan Love over, say, like Mac Jones, you're like, oh, I think Jordan Love's arm's better. His traits are more transferable. I think that's preference at that point. But for the most part, most people would have Jordan Love 6. And then further proof of that is he was looked at as an end of the first round, second round type of talent. Mm-hmm. All these quarterbacks are going to be gone before 16, most likely. So I think that's also kind of indicates that Love's not viewed as highly as those guys, but Love's going to be better than all of them. He's in behind Rodgers. I mean,
yeah,
he's going to be the best.
So I would totally agree with Blake that those 5 guys are definitely going to go before where Love was drafted, and that they are definitely ranked higher. But like I said, I don't like quarterbacks coming in and starting day one. They usually don't work out. And that's why Love honestly could have potential to one day be a better quarterback, because he's learning. He's sitting, he's watching how the game's being played. It's different than college, and he's getting that extra experience from the sideline before he's just being thrown out there. Like Trevor Lawrence already has his playbook. Like they're just rushing him out there. I mean, obviously he's going to start this year, and he's very good and he's better than Love, but I don't like them just rushing quarterbacks out there.
I think the point you're making is definitely true for like someone like Zach Wilson, where the Jets O-line besides Mekhi Becton's kind of a disaster.
Zach Wilson's overrated, but that's not why we're here.
I don't know about all that noise, but
we don't need to talk about that right now.
I'll say this: Jordan Love's going to be going into a better situation than Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. Maybe not the 49ers, but say Mac Jones goes to a team like I don't know, like the Lions. Say a quarterback goes to the Lions. Would you rather be on the Packers organization or the Lions?
For sure. The Packers have one of the top 3 offensive lines. They got Devontae Adams. They got Aaron Jones. They're going to get another weapon. Yeah, of course you'd rather be on the Packers. And it's easier for those quarterbacks to do like Patrick Mahomes went to a good Chiefs team, and he got to sit a year, and that's why he's so good. Obviously, he's a great quarterback, but
it helps.
It helps sit a year, and he's on a good team.
And having Tyreek Hill and Kelsey, it all helps. So I guess my point here, or the point we're trying to make, is Jordan Love may not be as good of a prospect, but with the aid of being able to sit and being on a better team, he could end up being better than some of these guys that are drafted way higher than him and are seen as better prospects. But good question, Ed. And then Ethan had a few questions that were really good. What did you guys think of the Kevin King signing? I'm personally not happy about it. So we have done a video on this, but we can talk about it here as well. But Nick, what are your thoughts on it?
So at first, right after the playoff game, I was not a Kevin King fan at all. I was like, oh my gosh, you threw away our season. This was our year. But after a while, nobody wanted Kevin King really. And we got him for a fair price. He's a cornerback number 2 right now. I think we're going to get a guy in the draft who could maybe take that spot, maybe be right behind him. But I'm not upset with the signing as I would have been as my emotions were right after the game. But now, no, I'm glad. I'm not glad. I'm satisfied that we re-signed Kevin King, and he's a solid player when he's good, when he's healthy. When he's healthy, he's a solid player.
I'm with you. So I was actually one of the few, I feel, that was like, I want Kevin King.
Yeah, you want him back.
I know he didn't do good at certain moments in the most critical of times, but the point I always come back to is what would happen if we didn't have him? Because the guys behind him aren't any better.
No.
I wouldn't say Josh Jackson's better than Kevin King. I wouldn't say our slot Chandon Sullivan's better or any of the guys after. So you're putting yourself where you're losing depth, A. And then B, what if Jair gets hurt? We're going to be rolling with some later round picks, and I'd rather have Kevin King slide into that number 1 role than say a Josh Jackson.
He's got the experience too, exactly, in the NFL.
He does have experience, and in the past few years, he's been more healthy. That was his big issue his first 2 years. He couldn't get on the field. But he has been a little more healthy. I think starting in 2019, he was able to play most of the season. So I like it. He was pretty cheap, pretty inexpensive. I understand why people may not be the biggest fans of it. But I am a big fan. I always have been a big fan of the Kevin King signing. But that's a good question. There was another question which we have not talked about very much.
We haven't, have we?
What do you think of the Aaron Jones contract? Nick, I'm going to let you go first on this one.
All right. So we made video actually we don't think we're going to re-sign Aaron Jones. And we're happy. He's a great running back, and I believe it's 4 years, $48 million is what it came out to. So he could have got more money somewhere else, I feel like. That's a fair price for Aaron Jones. It's a little more than I personally like to spend on running backs because I think running backs are not as important as a position. You just kind of need a solid guy back there. I would have preferred a 2-year, 18 to 20 million deal for some free agent. But no, I'm not upset with the Aaron Jones re-signing because he's a good running back. He's a touchdown machine. If you get in the red zone, he'll get you in the end zone. And obviously I like that. He's a fun guy to have on the field. And so I'm not upset about it, but I guess I can describe myself as I was a little surprised. I was shocked that we re-signed him, but I'm glad to have him back.
Okay, so fair enough. Yeah, at first I was very surprised they brought him back. It seemed like, according to everything, he wasn't going to come back. He denied a contract in the middle of the year that would have made him top 5 highest paid. We didn't know the guarantees, which is really all that matters for these contracts. Yeah. And what's interesting about this is that the first 2 years, that's where all the guarantees is. So if you look it up, basically it's a 2-year deal because they have an out after the second year where they'll only have, I believe it's $6 million in dead cap. So basically how it works is after the second year, they can cut him and not have too much dead cap, which is important. So at the end of the day, it really boils down to he's pretty reasonable contract the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And then he jumps significantly. So what's good about this is, if you remember the Zeke contract, it was 5 years with a lot of guarantees. It's only 2 years because running back shelf lives are a lot lower than offensive lineman, quarterback, pretty much every.
Todd Gurley is a great example of someone who just kind of fell off the map.
Yeah, and it's because they get injured a lot. They get a lot of tread. So when you look at it that way and you say, okay, there's only a lot of guarantees for the first 2 years, I don't have an issue with it. I'm fine with it. I didn't think they would get him that reasonably priced, but they did. And I'm cool with it because he definitely, he hasn't taken a ton of hits. I think the death number for a running back is like over 300 carries. He has not gotten that. He was injured a few years. In the beginning, he was misused by McCarthy, I'd argue. And also, we've had good backups like Jamal Williams. He played a lot of meaningful snaps the last couple of years with Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon last year for a little bit got to come in. So he hasn't had too much tread. I still think he'll be effective for the next 2 years of this contract. And then before it jumps in balloons to I think it's $19 million, he's supposed to get base salary. And
that's a lot of money for
in his third year. They can cut him before that happens. So I like it from that sense. I think it's a genius contract. I really didn't think we'd sign him, but if you would have told me it would have been for that amount, I would have said, of course. That's fairly inexpensive for a running back of his caliber in the length of the contract. Because, I'm typically very against paying running backs. So good job, Goot and Packers front office. Next question, Ethan, just bombarding us with great
questions.
Much appreciated. Ethan Van DeHay says, what linebackers do you guys like in this year's draft for the Packers? Nick, what are your thoughts?
So first I'm going to say that a linebacker that a lot of people like that me and Blake actually don't like is Zaven Collins. And he's from Tulsa, and we just don't think he fits with the Packers too well. But a linebacker that I do like is Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame.
Yes.
I think he's going to fit very well with the Packers. I don't think he's going to be there at 29, though. We'd probably have to trade up a little bit to mid 17 to 23-ish. Yeah, so right after mid. He won't be super early, like the early teens. He'll be the late teens or late 20s. Yeah, and that's a linebacker I really like. I think Blake likes him a lot, too.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I think Barnes is probably our best linebacker now. Really good against the run. Doesn't offer much in coverage. Martin is not the best in coverage, but Owusu-Koramoah excels in coverage. He converted safety to linebacker. He's one of those smaller tweener guys. He's still 220 pounds, so he's not super small, but really good at covering the slot. And the Packers haven't had a good coverage linebacker. I mean, as far as I can remember, maybe the last really good linebacker the Packers have had was Desmond Bishop.
Coverage.
I would just overall. I would not.
Blake Martinez, he was a good linebacker.
He was not to the level of Desmond Bishop. I mean,
you're right, obviously, but
Desmond Bishop was insane on those Packers defenses. Martinez was good at getting tackles, I guess.
Tackle machine, because no one else on the Packers can tackle.
Exactly. But yeah, Owusu-Koramoah would fit really well into our defense. Next to our linebackers that are Barnes, who's really good against the run. So he would be an awesome fit. Is he gonna be there? That's another question that
not at 29.
Probably not. But Owusu-Koramoah, there's a few other guys, Jamin Davis. I haven't really watched a lot of them play, but I know he's a guy that gets mocked there a lot. Nick Bolton as well from Missouri. So those are a couple names to look out for that maybe they'll look into. But good question, Ethan. And then we had one more. What underrated wide receiver prospects do you think the Packers might target in the later rounds? Do you have anyone, Nick?
I'm not too familiar with people we could get in the later rounds. I think there's that guy from Western Michigan who's very underrated. I don't quite know his name, but if we're gonna go past the top three, like Jamar Chase and Waddle and Smith, then someone who the Packers – I'm sorry, this doesn't completely answer your question, but someone the Packers could get at 29 or in the early second round would be the North Carolina guy, Dwayne Brown, or John Brown, or the Elijah Moore. Is he Ole Miss? I think. So Elijah Moore is someone that a lot of people think the Packers would get if they go wide receiver out in the first round. Do you have people for the later rounds?
I don't have a ton of later round guys, if I'm going to be honest, so I apologize. I can't fully answer this question, but underrated prospect. There's one. I'm going to go for guys that might be there in the second round. Maybe we'd have to trade up, but these are completely different guys, but one is Kadarius Toney. Now, if you've seen our channel, you'll know Vish is the biggest Kadarius Toney fan. He's his favorite player. He would be insane in the slot. He's more of he's a really good route runner, actually, but he's kind of the gadget type where you can do the touch passes, you can do jet sweep, you can do creative stuff with him in the backfield, and he would kind of do what Tyler Ervin does, but he'd be that on steroids. He's very shifty, breaks a ton of tackles, insane after the catch. He can change direction, cut on a dime. Injury history is concerning. Not the most productive in college. What if you put stock into that or not? And he is a little smaller, so he's kind of limited to the slot role and gadget role, but he would be so explosive, and kind of what the Packers are missing is a guy who can create something out of nothing. So I really like him, and that'll be I'm not going to name the other guys because I don't think they'll be there. I think Kadarius Toney will potentially be there in the second round if we potentially trade up. So I'm going to say Kadarius Toney would be an awesome target in the second round. I know it's not later rounds. I wish I had some names for you, but Kadarius Toney would be awesome in the Packers offense. And the second part of the question, is Bobby Tonyan going to get a legit running mate at tight end? This is a good question. Now, this is kind of under the radar news for the Packers, but they've actually invested quite a lot into tight ends.
They have. We got Josiah Dagura in the third round last year. Mm-hmm. He only played in 2 games. I think he only caught 1 ball. Mm-hmm. He wasn't targeted, obviously, too much. But he got injured, and Josiah Dagura only got 3rd round last year, and he could be – he's not going to be as good as Robert Tonyan, but he could be a guy who's coming in on some plays and could carry his weight. So look out for Josiah Dagura this year.
And then the other guy is Jay Sternberger, who they drafted in the 3rd round a few years back. He has really not been as advertised.
He can't catch.
He was a really good receiver at Texas A&M. He was like a slot guy, and he was averaging like 17 yards a catch. But, yeah, he's had some issues with dropping passes, and he's just really not the best. So he's kind of the 4th tight end. Mercedes Lewis is our other guy, really good blocker. So I don't think legit running mate is kind of
no. It's not going to be anyone on his level.
Yeah, I would say
had double-digit touchdowns last year.
I don't think they'll have a legit running mate, but I think they'll have good complementary pieces that that excel at maybe what Bob Tonyan doesn't excel at, and that's blocking. Mercedes Lewis and Josiah Dagura, really, really good blockers. And Dagura is more of a fullback, but he can kind of do both. And then also last year we had a guy by the name of Dominique Daphne.
He's a fullback.
Yeah, he was a fullback / tight end. He came in. He was a pretty good blocker, but interesting guy.
I think he scored, right? Did he score a touchdown?
I believe he did. I know Mercedes had a few really good catches for touchdowns, so he will probably not have a running mate, but our tight end room is pretty good compared to how it's been when we tried Jimmy Graham, Martellus Bennett, Jared Cook for besides like 3 games. So yeah, Bobby Tonyan, pretty good tight end. Next question from Jonathan Turner. Do you think the Packers are shopping Rodgers? We'll just start with this one. No, he's not going to.
They're not. He was the most valuable player in the entire NFL. He is going to be a Green Bay Packer. And for the second part of the question, the Niners had their chance in the 2005 draft. They could have got him. They took Alex Smith, still a great player, but nowhere near Aaron Rodgers. So the Niners had their chance for Aaron Rodgers. He will never be a 49er.
Never say never, but not this year is what I'll say.
Or next year.
What would it take for the Niners to get him? See, this is the question that I think is kind of interesting because
what would it take for anyone to get him? Let's say,
yeah. I mean, you think about it. Okay, he's like 38. His arms looks fine. He looks mobile. He's playing at an MVP level. But when you do trade for him, it's not like with Deshaun Watson where the guy's 25 and can play 10 more years. Rodgers can play 5 years at most, but we haven't seen any quarterback play over 40 and be well besides Tom. But Rodgers looks like he can do that. So I don't know what his worth would or what his trade value would be. His contract's also kind of a lot, and the Packers have to eat a ton of dead cap. So it just doesn't make sense from that regard. But fun to think about. I mean, I have no clue what he would go for. At least I would say probably not more than 3 firsts.
I think it would be. I was thinking because I think McCaffrey, the Texans offered 3 firsts. Obviously, that's different because he's a running back and he's younger. But if you look at a running back who's younger, that's kind of similar to an older quarterback because neither running backs don't last too long, and a quarterback's a much more valuable position. So I'd say 3 first is roughly what he'd go for.
But yeah, it's impossible to say because the Packers would be a ton of dead cap. We're just grasping at straws here. He's not going to the Niners. Get that thought out of your head, erase it. Ethan, we are happy to answer your questions. Keep asking good ones. What's your thoughts on that Minnesota wide receiver? So I believe the Minnesota
Rashad Bateman.
Is Rashad Bateman. He would be really pretty good fit for the Packers. Deep threat, 4-4 guy. He did struggle this past year, but 2019 looked to be really, really good. What are your thoughts on him, Nick?
So I go to Purdue. Blake goes to Iowa. So we're Big Ten guys. I saw a lot of Rashad Bateman in his career in college, and I love him. I think he's really, really good wide receiver. I think he could be a really, really good wide receiver in the NFL. He's not one of those top guys, but he's someone who will go a little later, and he's very versatile. That's something he has. He is a very versatile wide receiver, and I think he can succeed in the NFL if he goes to the right team and he has a good quarterback. I don't think anybody will ever know his name if he goes to a team that does not have someone who is a top half quarterback, let's say.
Interesting. So yeah, I mean, he's pretty explosive and like after the catch, obviously, like he's a deep ball threat. So that'd be interesting. Change of directions, maybe not the best. And yeah, this past year he didn't really dominate as much as people thought he would. I think he'll definitely be there late first. I don't think he'd be there when we go to the second. So maybe trade back and take him. His stock's kind of fallen, to be honest with you, it seems. You know, he was highly regarded as the 4th best receiver in this class, but I feel like he's fallen a little bit. Tough to say. Good question. And then another one, Ethan, another good question. Do we still have Devin Funchess as receiver? That's the first question. Yes, we do. So how it worked was basically he opted out from COVID, so his contract details got pushed back to this year. Still cheap. If we do, how do you think he will do? Any thoughts, Nick?
I think he's going to be, as of right now on our roster, I think he's our wide receiver too. I think he's better than Allen Lazard. Obviously, he's not Devontae Adams. I think he's a guy that Rodgers will learn to have confidence in. I think Rodgers will learn that, hey, I can throw this guy the ball and he's going to catch it. I think he's going to be pretty good. He had only 1 or 2 really good seasons with the Panthers, but he didn't have Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball. And Aaron Rodgers can make just about any NFL wide receiver look like a really good wide receiver as long as they are capable of catching the ball. They need to create a little space, but Rodgers will put it right there in his hands. So I think that Funchess will be good with the Packers this year. And I'm glad you brought him up because not a lot of people are talking about Devin Funchess.
Yeah, I know they're really not. So 2019, he got signed to the Colts for a 1-year, $14 million deal. He played in like a game or two and got injured. So people haven't really talked about him too much, which is tough. Tough to see. I guess my thing is I don't really know what type of commodity he'll be. He hasn't really done much since 2016, 2017. So I'm worried in that sense, like how he'll look. I think he'll probably be our 3rd receiver at best. I'd probably have Lazard in front of him, but he's a big-bodied guy, and he played with Cam, and his catch radius is huge. So, if it is on target, his target's huge, basically, is the bottom line. So I'm not too confident in him, but if he shows anything, it's a win at the end of the day. He's cheap. But now we'll stop with the questions. Good questions, though. We're going to get to the mock draft, which is a live mock draft. We're going to start, and we're going to do the Packers picks. And we're just going to go round by round. with the Packers. So we're at 29. Just simming through it right now. Got a few guys going that I see that I wish we could take, but we are up now. We're not going to trade here, so we can just quickly scan at some of the names. Najee Harris is gone. Kadarius Toney, Koramoah, Bateman. Yep. So a few of the guys that we mentioned are gone. There's Newsome, Elijah Moore, Walker Little, Jalen Phillips, interesting. Terrace Marshall, Asante Samuel, a lot of pretty good guys here. Nick, what are your thoughts? What would you do? What position would you go?
I am thinking cornerback right now, and I'm thinking Greg Newsome. We could also go Asante Samuel Jr., but if we decide to go cornerback, if you agree, I would say we go with Greg Newsome. I'm a little surprised he's at 29, but I guess it says he averages around 27, so I shouldn't be too surprised, but I think Greg Newsome would be a good pick here.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm looking, there's a lot of receivers. Jalen Phillips would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
He has some concussion issues, but he's a really good edge. Corner is enticing. Tackle, there's some really good receivers there. I think I'm with you on the Newsome. I think I'm warming up to the idea that Packers take Greg Newsome first round.
Mm-hmm.
Really solid corner. You can never have enough of them, especially when there's a ton of really good receivers in the league now. Greg Newsome, the second, is going to be our pick. So now it's going to the second round. We are pick 62. Looking at the players, there's some tackle, safety, linebacker, receiver. Dyami Brown's there. So we went with corner in the first round. Second round, what position are you thinking?
So we said we got to get Aaron Rodgers a weapon. We said we need a wide receiver that Rodgers can be confident with. And I think Dyami Brown's that guy. I think he's a good wide receiver. I think there's a lot of wide receivers in this class, and that he's one of the last ones in like the second tier of wide receivers, I guess you could say. And I think we get Rodgers a weapon here in the second round.
And we can just compare him with some of the other guys.
Yeah. See, that's where it falls off right after.
It looks like a pretty big drop-off right after. Now, some of these guys are pretty good. Amon Ross, St. Brown, Equinemius' brother, actually. But I'm with you. And now, I don't know how realistic this is that Dyami Brown will be here. I don't think he will.
Okay.
But if he's here now for us, for the taking, we're going to go Dyami Brown, a vertical threat, solid receiver out of UNC. And now we are in the third round, pick 29. Here's some of the guys that went. Davis Mills, Kellen Mond. Just a few of the other guys, but we're up on the clock now. There's some linebackers, safety, guard, corner. Interesting. What are your thoughts? Who are you thinking?
So I'm thinking we need a linebacker, but we could also go with another cornerback because the Packers have done that a lot in the past where they get two corners in the first 3 rounds. But I'm thinking linebacker. How about you?
I'm with you. Jamin Davis. I have not watched him, so I'll say that. But from what I've heard from other people who I trust and what I've read on him, super athletic linebacker. Solid pick there out of Kentucky. Fills a need of linebacker that we're kind of missing some juice there. And we don't have too much talent and capital put into that position. But next we are up again, 4th round. Some interesting guys that have fallen, it looks like, by the ADP, but safety, corner, guard, corner, receiver. So I know so just to recap what we've taken now, or so far, took in a corner, took a receiver, then we just took a linebacker. So that's like that is everything on this needs list, but I'd be cool with double dipping at receiver, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we have another pick like in 7 picks too. We have 2 4th rounders, just to point that out.
Yeah, we do have 2 4ths. What position are you thinking? I'm thinking cornerback. And
I'm thinking in the 4th round we take a corner and a wide receiver. So I think what we do first is corner, just because they're more likely to go in the next 7 picks than wide receivers. So
Mhm. And there's
we could take the linebackers teammate, take Kelvin Joseph, or we could take Tay Gowan, but I think we go with Joseph.
I'm with you on Joseph. He had some really good games. Physical, I've again not seen too much from him. It's more of position and ADP. So we're going 2 corners already. Just beefing it up, and then it looks like we can go receiver like we wanted to and double dip there. So I would be cool with receiver, but honestly, I'm thinking we haven't touched the D line at all, and Milton Williams seems to be the best guy and the only guy here. He's an athletic freak.
Yeah, we can get a receiver in the 5th. I'd be fine taking a D lineman now, especially since it looks like there's a lot more receivers available.
Exactly. So I'm thinking D lineman, Milton Williams. We're taking him. We needed to beef up the D line. We're lacking talent there, so we went.
Yes, Kenny Clark needs help.
Exactly. So we're back up on the clock. We're thinking either receiver, halfback.
We could go halfback because right now, if Aaron Jones or AJ Dillon gets injured, we don't got anyone. We have Tyler Ervin. Is that who it would be?
It would be Tyler Ervin,
who's not a halfback.
Yeah, not entirely. So I know we've taken Herbert in the past.
We do have 2 picks this round as well.
We do. I'm thinking we go receiver here, honestly. Take the Clemson guy, Cornell Powell.
Okay.
That's what
we definitely need another receiver in this draft. I said we'd get 2, and I'd like to get 2. So I'm totally fine going with Cornell Powell right here.
It looks like they're flying off Ravens, and they love the.
Yeah, this will be 3 in a row, won't it?
3 in a row. Cornell Powell, we're taking him.
And then there's another one at 177.
Now, we haven't touched the O-line much here, so I'm thinking that would probably be the next. Just go tackle with
because Bakhtiari is injured to start the season. So
line.
We need someone.
O-line is a need we haven't really addressed too much in this mock, but we're going with it right there in the 5th. A little late, yes. I digress. We can go on to the next pick, 6th round. Here is more of just positions, so I would say D-line, just get another big guy for the trenches, or we could go halfback.
I was actually thinking halfback.
Okay.
Because just in case, someone gets injured, we're going to need a halfback.
I'm thinking Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, best available at this point.
Highest rated on this board.
And that defensive lineman is still there. I agree with you that we should get another guy for the trenches. So let's go with him.
Another D lineman. So we got 2 new D linemen. Maybe one of them will get some minutes. We'll see. It's tough to say. These picks are, again, just more of, I guess.
Positional needs and best available.
Yep, exactly. Some halfbacks.
I'd honestly be okay with a safety here.
Safety?
Because the Packers like to use 3 safeties. So, not at once, but rotate them,
I would say safety or edge, honestly. I'd almost say edge. We did sign Will Redmond again. And we drafted Vernon Scott last year in the 6th. So I'd say edge just in case Teron Jackson. That's what I'm thinking. But you can't go wrong. Let's look at the grades here.
We finally got a
grade. So A+ for Greg Newsome. I don't know if I've seen that very often. Surprising, sure. But Greg Newsome A+, De'Ami Brown A-, Jamin Davis A-, Kelvin Joseph A-. Got a bad grade for Milton Williams. I don't know. I like that pick a lot, to be honest with you. I like the Milton Williams, but it was only Powell A-.
I don't know who they wanted us to take there.
Exactly. And then we got some C+ at the end of
don't know how they grade those later rounds. That's all right. We did well early in the draft.
B+ overall. So
take it.
I like it. I like that draft, but we only have a couple more days till it actually does start.
I'm excited, Blake. I'm excited to see what the Packers do. We'll be talking about next week, but it's going to be a lot of fun on Thursday and Friday and Saturday.
Yep, exactly. So, next week we'll analyze the draft pick, all the draft picks, rounds 1 through 7. So make sure to come back next week for that analysis. But until next time, thank you for watching, and we will see you then.